Unfortunately, in the events of these last 12 years, the American foreign policy establishment has had some time to review some of the policies that have really not worked in the Middle East. Perhaps they might work with Canada and Mexico in a calmer time where there aren't overarching religious ideologies that want to dominate the scene. But we have certainly learned through the last few days that they do not work in the Middle East with Gaza and with Hamas, and possibly not with Hezbollah. Right now, we are very, very privileged to have Brigadier General Amir Avivi with us. General Amir Avivi he is the founder and CEO of the Israelis Defense and Security Forum, or IDSF, which is comprised of well over 17,000 senior reserve officers, commanders, and operators from all branches of the Israeli security establishment. Retired from the IDF after more than 30 years of military counter-terrorism and national security experience, he is absolutely one of the members of the IDF who has had serious oversight and has been able to really evaluate how the combat operations and all of the various systems that go into them are at work. And it is now that we're able to ask him some very tough questions about the war. First and foremost, we'd like to know what you and what the IDF can tell us about this bombing and the Gaza hospital.
Well, this event is a shooting of Palestinian Islamic Jihad that was shooting Israel, and they had till yesterday 135 rockets that fell in Gaza. So there is a big portion of the shooting. It was like that in all cases that they shot, that dysfunctions and falls inside Gaza. Sometimes it has casualties and sometimes not. In this case, they shot quite a big rocket to Israel, and it failed and fell in the parking lot of this hospital, and there were injuries. I don't think it's even close the numbers that they're saying, but it doesn't matter. We have every single proof needed to show that this has nothing to do with Israel.
And it looks to me that President of the United States, President Biden, is very convinced that Israel had the evidence, that it's very credible evidence that this was not an IDF action, but a Palestinian Islamic Jihad action.
Yes, there are like 10 different kinds of evidence, and it's 100% that it's not Israel, but this didn't influence the New York Times that immediately said that it's Israel, or other newspapers who what they're doing is simply lying and endangering the people of Israel and encouraging riots of Arabs. And I think it's something that we need to do something about.
Right. This is a real illusion of living in a democracy where they want to split the screen on the televisions and split the screen on the newspapers and have this he said, she said dynamism, and then people believe what they want to believe. And unfortunately, how do we get this message also out to the Muslim and Arab world, where we know that there are horrible riots in Amman and in Cairo and Ramallah?
Well, I think what's happening now, it's not similar to anything we saw before. It's not Guardians of the World. It's not an uprising inside Israel. It's a very different scenario. From the very beginning, I'm hearing myself for some reason. From the very beginning, we had this huge attack, 3,000 Hamas operatives at the same time, or not at the same time, but a bit later on, also some shooting from Lebanon. But in all this war, the Israeli Arab society and also in Judea and Samaria, things are pretty much under control. And it might change, but now we are in full capacity. We have mobilized our whole army, and we have mobilized our whole police and the border patrol, and in all cities and towns in Israel, Jewish citizens are weaponizing themselves and being ready for any scenario. So I think, and also in times of war, it's not the same behavior as in normal times. So if anybody inside Israel will try to do something, the consequences will be dire. I mean, we're not going to let them do anything. But it's not happening at the moment. We must say that. Things are inside Israel fairly quiet. Might change. There might be a terror attack here or there. We apprehended many terrorists in Judea and Samaria. We raided all the leadership of the Hamas there. And I think that maybe the biggest question that might change everything is the northern border, is what will happen with Hezbollah. And I must say, there is not a simple answer. I mean, if you ask me, will we be in war with Hezbollah or not? My answer is, I don't know. I don't know because too many things to take in account from the Iranian side and from our side and from the US side. So it's unclear. I can say for sure that no matter what will happen in Lebanon, we at the moment want to focus on Gaza and destroying Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad completely. Now, some people, they are saying that 1 day, 2 days, 13 days, and nothing is happening, only Air Force attacks, and it gives them like the feeling that, maybe we change our mind, maybe we're not going to do a ground operation. It's hardly the case. We have our own reasons why we didn't launch yet a ground operation, but this ground operation is imminent and will conquer all of Gaza and will destroy Hamas and Palestinian Jihad completely. They will cease to exist in Gaza, not in other places, but in Gaza. And we're going to clean up this whole place. It will take months and months. And then what we are discussing now and pushing in IDSF with the government is what are the terms needed to keep this afterwards, not to have again terror in Gaza. And there are two things that we need. One, full control of the Egyptian border. We cannot have a connection between Gaza and Egypt. And you cannot control only the road. You need to control the whole area of Rafah to do so. And the other thing is full freedom of operation for the IDF forever, which means that just like in Jenin or Nablus or anywhere else, we need to go in, apprehend the terrorists and go out. We need to be able to do it on an everyday basis. And it really doesn't matter who will run the cities in Gaza from a civilian point of view. It doesn't matter. From a security point of view, we need freedom of operation.
So the openings will only be open through Rafah? Is it too porous to keep the other openings of Gaza out occasionally to go into and out of into Israel?
Talking about the Palestinians going in and out?
Yeah.
The best scenario for us is Egypt opening the Rafah crossing and letting Palestinians who want to go out, go out. And there are hundreds of thousands who want to leave Gaza and go out. or at least momentarily, while there is war. Egyptians are really against that, and I think that the world is not understanding that this is inhuman, because if there is a war in a place and citizens want to get out of a war zone, why are they blocking them? Why can't they go out? From their own will. I'm not talking about us pushing them out. I'm talking about them being able to take their own decisions and go out, just like nobody pushed 5 million Ukrainians out of Ukraine. They left because they wanted to leave, because they don't want to be in a war zone. Imagine Poland and the other countries saying, no, stay in Ukraine and die, or be in danger. And I cannot comprehend the West. Why isn't there a shout, and why isn't the West pressuring Egypt to open the borders and let the people themselves decide what they want? So what Israel is doing at the moment, it told the Palestinian citizens, especially of the northern part of Gaza, go south and go to the coastal area where Gush Katif was. Because this area remained open, and they didn't build anything there. It was probably still waiting for Gush Katif to come back, but it's an open area. So the Palestinians were told to move south. There are more than 700,000 Palestinians that left the area of Gaza and moved to this area, and there they can be safe. There they'll get supplies, water, food, whatever they need. And this helps us really when we're going into operation on the ground to minimize civilian casualties. For us, anybody who hasn't left is suspected of being a terrorist. Now, the Hamas is doing many things to try to prevent the civilians from going south. It's taking keys of cars, it's building roadblocks, which is terrible. They want them as human shields. And this is also something that the world needs to really say something about. So if anybody cares about these Palestinians, they need to really attack Hamas for trying to stop them, and also open the Egyptian border.
We saw on Friday the pamphlets that were flying from the sky in Arabic all over northern Gaza, telling them where to go, where they would be safe. But then we saw the pamphlets in Arabic saying, stay here and fight the resistance. It's a horrible, horrible situation. So tell us, we know that there's a huge network of underground tunnels where perhaps Hamas is hiding, perhaps there are weapons in there, perhaps some of the hostages are in there. Could you tell us something about the city of weapons that are under the feet of Gaza?
So I'm not going to go into our capabilities and how can we deal with this, but I'm going to tell you what they did. They understood long ago that Israel has two big advantages. One is intelligence, and the other one is Air Force. So I said, okay, we are going to overcome both. And one of the ways to do it is build a whole city underground where we cannot hear, we cannot see, and they can be safe from Air Force attack. And this is why we see so many Air Force attacks. And at the end of the day, their incapacity of continuing to command, of continuing to shoot rockets, everything is underground. The rockets are underground, the headquarters are underground, the storage, the munition, and also an ability to maneuver, to go from one place to another, all underground. And this requires operational solutions, and Israel has worked a lot in the last decade to see how we can overcome this. I won't go into details, but we're going to do this.
But you have some knowledge of the vastness and what is taking place underground.
Sorry?
You have some knowledge of the enormous distance underground and their capabilities, you know, what they're, yeah, and you might have some knowledge as to what they're hiding under there.
Yeah, they're hiding thousands of terrorists, rockets, our hostages, supplies, headquarters, communication, everything is underground. Now, I didn't invent this way of working, you know, the Maginot Line, France, and the history is full of examples of massive underground bunkers. So it was the Japanese in the Second World War, and America has a lot of trouble with dealing with this underground fortresses. In Gaza, it's a big deal. But we know we can overcome this. And I must say that when we'll maneuver into Gaza, this is going to be very aggressive, very strong, with a lot of Air Force assistance and artillery and many capabilities that we are going to utilize. And I think everybody will be extremely surprised by how powerful and strong is the IDF. So we started, you know, with a surprise. I must tell you that even in this terrible event, these terrorists were strong against babies and women and elderly people. But in every scenario where there were people on our side fighting, we overcame them. But simply they surprised us. They are not that heroes. They are well equipped, but not intelligent and not really that well trained. And now that we have very clear goals and the ground forces and everybody is preparing very seriously, and I think we have all that we need to bring what was the goal in the Second World War against the Nazis, unconditional surrender.
And you suspect that many of the hostages are in these underground tunnels?
I'll tell you something about the hostages. The situation with the hostages, and I'm not talking about the fact that it's more than 200, and there is children and many nationalities. There are many complexities. I don't think in the history, in modern history, there was something similar. But there is also something different. And another thing that is different is that it's not the classic situation where, let's say, in the Yom Kippur or the 6-Day War, they take prisoners of war and then they take them to Cairo or to far away from where the fight is. And, you know, you concentrate on fighting, and when the fighting ends, you negotiate. This is not the scenario here, because we are going to conquer Gaza, and they are in Gaza, and we are going to arrive and liberate them. And they are in the areas where we are going to operate. So the goal of conquering and destroying Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad and all these militant terrorists, and the goal of freeing our hostages are completely aligned. Okay? Because to free them, we need to go in and destroy Hamas and free them. And there is not going to be any negotiation with the leadership of Hamas, because they will all be dead. At best, we'll arrive to a place where some terrorists are holding them and negotiate locally, you know, with the terrorists. But it's not going to be anything similar to a hostage situation as we usually imagine it.
So we've seen, first of all, a lot of discussion here about the day after with all these American armchair generals about whether or not Fatah should be installed, whether or not there should be a two-state solution or international community of friendly Sunni Arabs. I'm almost positive it's too early in the game to come to those solutions. But Amir, do you have any ideas of what would be appropriate? Who should be governing Gaza after this?
And so what won't be appropriate. In no scenario should we give Gaza to the Palestinian Authority. They are funding, as we speak, the families of all the murderers that butchered our people. They are funding this. Abu Mazen didn't say even one word against the slaughter, the rape, burning people alive, hanging little children, babies, decapitating babies. Now also in Judean and Samaria, the vast majority supports Hamas. And we have to understand who we are dealing with. The only difference between Hamas and the people in Judean and Samaria, the Palestinians in Judean and Samaria, is not the intention, it's a capability. If they had the capability, they would have done exactly the same to Tel Aviv, to Ra'anana, to Kfar Saba, Hedera, or any other place. We need to wake up and understand who we are dealing with. And I think that the best we can do is, when everything is over, restore the local municipalities of the cities and let them run their own cities. And not anything central. I think that also in Judean and Samaria, there's a lot of the possibility that the Palestinian Authority will collapse the day after Abbas. So I wouldn't trust them for anything. And this is a big discussion we need to have with ourselves and also with the administration.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Looking up north, we see a lot of skirmishes. How anxious do you think Iranian-backed Hezbollah is to get into this fight right now, to the fray?
Hezbollah? When we talk about Hezbollah or Hamas, the answer lies in Iran, the Iranian militias. There are 4 reasons why Hezbollah is deterred to open a full-scale war. One reason is that Iran needs Hezbollah intact for themselves to be safe and not be left without any defense. Without Hamas and Hezbollah, there is nothing standing between us or the US to attack Iran. And they know that. So if we already have to fight Hamas and Hezbollah and destroy them, the day after we destroy them, there should be no reason why not take all our efforts and destroy Iran. And they know that also. The other thing is that Hezbollah had their chance Saturday morning to coordinate this attack with Hamas. They didn't do that. And the element of surprise is not there anymore. We mobilized our whole army. The Northern Command is in full capacity, ready for war. The Air Force, the intelligence, everything now is working like a war machine, ready to destroy Hezbollah. Not exactly the best timing for them. And the 2 other reasons are, one, that the state of Lebanon, of course, many actors are completely against involving Lebanon because they know we'll destroy Lebanon. It's not just about Hezbollah. I mean, if, for example, Hezbollah shoots our electrical plants, we will destroy Lebanon's electrical plants. We'll take them back 100 years. And they know that. So they want to keep Hezbollah at leash. And the last reason is that America bought warships. America is showing willingness to fight. America already threatened that if they attack, America will get involved, and this can also be involved with Iran. Many, many reasons why not to wage war, but there are also reasons to wage war. Iran needs to ask herself if they are willing to let us destroy completely Hamas without doing anything. Iran, I'm sure they say to themselves, okay, but maybe now we won't wage war, and this will be very beneficial for Israel that can concentrate on Gaza. But maybe war is imminent. Maybe the Israelis in a month or two will attack us anyway. So, you know, if it's imminent, maybe we should do it now. So after I gave all the options, the conclusion is there is no conclusion. We don't know. And we haven't even started talking about what are Israel's interests. And who said that it's up to Iran, maybe it's up to us. So are we going to take advantage of the fact that already the US is warships here, and maybe it's time that we really dismantle this whole Shia axis? So there are many questions. And the one thing we can learn from all this is it's going to be a very, very long war. Very long. This is nothing like anything we have experienced in the past. Maybe the independence war is the closest we can talk about.
Yeah. Well, you're in for a very, very long slog. And when you mention the Shia axis, you're looking at China, Russia, North Korea, all of the various puppet states of Iran and Lebanon, and more or less in Syria and Yemen. You know, it's a larger, it widens the conflict a lot. And we might have some other, formidable actors on the other side as well. So it's a very big, many decisions in front of you. But meanwhile, we are constantly bringing the message home to American congressmen and representatives and senators that you are basically the tip of the spear, protecting all of Western civilization against radical jihadism. And this is so, yeah.
So, Sarah, we have like 10 more minutes. Do you want to take questions and answers? People I saw with some questions.
Yeah. Are there any questions in the audience? Hussein, do you see any? Joseph?
Hi, Sarah. Yeah, there are quite a few questions in the audience. And thank you again, Amir, for being on. We really appreciate your view. So one of the questions has to do with Hezbollah. So I'm wondering, Lebanon has traditionally been a very split society between different groups, such as the Christians, the Shiites, and the Sunnis. How do you think these divisions would play out in a potential conflict with Hezbollah?
So I think that Hezbollah understands that if they go to war, we of course will be able to really inflict huge damage on them, and then the other factions might take advantage of that and try to fight them as well. So they cannot be safe in their own country. And this is a consideration they are taking.
Thanks. So when it comes to the hostages, I'm sure there are certain things you can say, certain things you can't. However, do you have a time frame from when we'll be able to get them out? And is there anything you can say about possible plans to get them released?
So again, we need to connect to what's going on. We are going to do a ground operation, and we are going to conquer Gaza. And obviously, if we conquer Gaza, we'll get to them. So the time frame is completely aligned with the ground operation. Once we go in not just to destroy Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, we're going in to bring our people back.
Thank you. So already we've seen that within a week, the media narrative has flipped on Israel. If, as you say, this war will be very drawn out and very long, then of course it probably won't get any better. The media will entirely turn on the Israelis, unfortunately. I'm wondering, what other potential problems do you see in having a long, drawn out operation, even though it may be necessary?
I see one problem: manpower. I think that we have drafted the whole army, but I must say that for a long time, Israel has closed more and more reserve units, and we found ourselves in a reality where only like 1% of the society is doing reserve duty, instead of 10%, maybe more. And the army, because it has less units, they send people 35 years old, say to them, they don't need to do reserve anymore. In the past, it was 45 and even 50. And now there are maybe 100,000, 200,000 people at the age of reserve that are not doing reserve. Now, these guys who are now going to war, they already operated a lot in Judean and Samaria in the last year and a half because of the situation there. Now they're sent to war. Who knows how long? And when it will finish, we'll have to operate on everyday basis in Judean and Samaria, in Gaza, and probably also in Lebanon. We need people. And this is an opportunity in two senses. One, huge effort of the ground forces command to build up, based on the many reservists that we have, new brigades and battalions, in order for us to be able to replace people and send people home to work. We need our economy functioning. And the other huge opportunity that we in IDSF have taken upon ourselves in coordination with the ground forces is to do an historical thing and mobilize the Haredi communities to join the army. I think there are many people who feel that they are shocked by what happened, and they understand that this is a big war and we need to mobilize the ultra-Orthodox community. Say, guys, this is your moment. This is the moment the people of Israel need you, and we need you to join the army and assist in what's going on.
Thank you. Just going back very briefly to the question of the narrative. In the past, we've seen operations in Gaza be stopped what seems like prematurely due to pressure from the international community on Israel, especially once the media narrative changes. I wanted to ask you, how do you see the media narrative playing into this conflict now? Do you think there is any chance that it would stop Israel from taking the steps it needs to take?
I think that we're in a war. It's not an operation. I think that we have full support of the US and Europe. And I think that we have to understand we are going to conquer Gaza and destroy them, and nothing is going to stop us. And I think that media, as you have only air operation, shoot here and shoot there, the media, says what it says. But when the ground operation will start, this is a whole different scenario, completely. And even media-wise, it's not the same. It's a war on the ground, and it's different. And especially if we continue to say that we're also going to find our hostages and liberate them, nobody can say to us we shouldn't do that.
Joseph, do you have more, or can I also ask a few? We're going to eventually have to deal with the North as well. If Israel decides, and they're in the driver's seat a great deal, or if Iran or Iranian-backed Hezbollah decides. Do you feel, since you've had to use so many missile systems, Iron Dome missile systems to protect the south and the central of Israel from Gaza, will there be enough for the 150,000 missiles coming out of Lebanon and Syria? Some of which have been converted into precision-guided munitions.
When we conquer Gaza, and we'll destroy completely everything that has to do with terror infrastructure, including all the launching sites, there will be no threat from Gaza anymore. And then we can concentrate our air defense to the north. And in Lebanon, we always knew that we cannot have weeks and weeks and weeks of them shooting us. Once they start, this requires very fast ground attack to destroy Hezbollah. It's not something that we can wait. And I'm sure that if they start, we will have to maneuver and destroy all their forces and also rocket capabilities. And remember that when we talk about Hezbollah, there is also massive air defense, which is American, that is working with Israel. So you have a combination of Israeli-American capabilities that can deal with this threat from Hezbollah.
Do you think there's a possibility that you'll have to fight on both fronts simultaneously?
Sorry?
Will you have to fight on both fronts simultaneously or all at once, both at once?
Might happen, yes. But if it happens, it's not going to be probably our initiative.
Yeah. And
it will be Hezbollah.
Right. And how stable do you think the Palestinian Arab population is in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank? Might there be the possibility of three fronts?
Look, I'll tell you something. The stronger we are, the more decisive is the win, the more deterrence you create everywhere, inside Israel, Judea and Samaria, and the bigger are the chances of peace agreements afterwards with Saudi Arabia and the Sunni world. People like strong countries, and we have to show strength. We have to win decisively, and this will bring later on prosperity and peace agreements and a lot of good things. But now it's war.
Right. Well, we wish you so much hatzlacha, victory and success in your determination and your resolve and the moral clarity of this war. And that is one of the things we want to help get out is the moral clarity and not let other people's false stories and narratives cloud people's perceptions of the war. It's very important. So, hatzlacha. Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you, guys.